I have seen, made, or heard of so many rewrites to Star Wars. Whether it be for the prequel trilogy or the sequel trilogy, they've all had varying degrees of greatness. For how great or not great each Star Wars movies are, many of them suffer from having to fix or having to hold to what the last one or past movies have done. One day I told myself, how would I remake Star Wars? My Star Wars, if you will. I let my mind wander and create freely from other versions or ideas and began to make changes. Some were simple, others were more drastic. I took this through line and expanded it from a single movie to the whole series. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, leave a comment. If you don't like it, leave a comment. Now let's jump into part 1 of my Star Wars. Before we get into the story itself, there's a little bit of groundwork that we have to do in giving context to this version of the Star Wars universe. The religion of the Jedi Order was first formed or organized back in the Renaissance era of Coruscant before they expanded to the stars. As Coruscant expanded to other planets and other solar systems, this formed the earliest interstellar unions. The Jedi were sent out to protect and defend the people of Coruscant in their colony. They cooperated with the new planets and brought in the new teachings into the Jedi Order, as they found other religions or orders that worshiped the Force like they did. The main Jedi temple on Coruscant became the House of Knowledge and of the Force. Over time, the unions created highways in hyperspace for trade. As they extended their reach, they came in contact with other unions. These different groups had conflicts, wars, and battles over time. Each developed hyperdrives, and improved travel, eventually settling into an uneasy truce/ceasefire. The Jedi grew and unified or absorbed other like-minded religions and orders, and became peacemakers without any borders or government allegiance. When the Sith Kingdom invaded from the north of the galaxy, the different groups and unions were forced to create the first galactic alliance to fight the Sith and stop them from taking over the galaxy. This started what was called the 100 Years of Darkness. At the end of the 100 Years of Darkness, the Sith were completely removed from the galaxy. The Jedi gathered all the Sith teachings and artifacts and destroyed them. During the end of the war, a handful of Sith survived around the galaxy, but all were found over the next 10 years and defeated, with the exception of one, Darth Bane. He changed the Sith religion into a master and apprentice organization, only allowing 2 to be around at a time. They began to work in the shadows to bring down the Galactic Order and the Jedi. To the rest of the galaxy, the Sith were gone, and the Galactic Alliance evolved into the Galactic Republic. Over 1,000 years later, this Order of 2 for the Sith continued with Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious, hidden from the Republic and the Jedi, but plotting to destroy both of them. By this point, the Jedi Order was known as the Jedi Knights of the Galactic Republic. They had been around for around 40,000 and had a strict rule about who was allowed into the Order. There were 3 categories of people in the galaxy: those who had low potential or connection to the Force, those who had mild to normal connection to the Force, and those who had high potential and connection to the Force. During the 500 years after the war with the Sith, the Jedi sent all those who were born into the Order or brought into the Order with normal potential counts to a protected planet, and then eventually forgot about them. This caused many people to be born on the planet and around the galaxy with good connection to the Force, but no training. Currently, only those who had high potential and connection to the Force at a young age were let into the Order. They were generally babies either born into the order or brought into the order, not adults. Context or opening crawl. The galaxy had used clones for a long time. Over time, clones had become more akin to slave or second-class citizens. Around 900 years after the fall of the Sith, or 100 years ago, the clones began an uprising. 99% of the clones migrated to the Outer Rim, taking the technology of cloning with them. The core worlds, or the center of the galaxy, was the most developed and connected within the whole galaxy. This led to the most affluent, rich, and therefore most powerful worlds in the galaxy being in the center. The influx of clones or slaves to the Outer Rim caused a massive boom in the economy and strength within the Outer Rim. They created new hyperspace trade routes. They bypassed the core worlds and provided more economic independence to the backwater planets of the galaxy. This drew the ire of the core worlds. The Senate, corrupt and influenced by the secret Sith, passed laws to limit the Outer Rim and oppress them because of the tension that was growing with each year. This mounting tension led to the threat of war, rebellion, and even civil war. Duchess Satine of Naboo offered to have the Republic and the clone hierarchy come together to settle the disputes. Since Naboo was in the mid-rim, Satine and her people were in a position to be neutral ground for both parties. The Jedi sent 2 Jedi Knights to assist and moderate in the accords: Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. Star Wars Episode 1: The Clone Wars. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Knights, come to Naboo to oversee the negotiations and peace talks between the Republic and the Clone Society Initiative, or CIS, before a schism or a civil war will erupt. Duchess Satine has offered up Naboo as a host planet for the negotiations due to its location between the two factions and its place within the Mid-Rim. The ruling family of Naboo has ruled over the planet for 2,000 years and has had their autonomy from the Republic while operating within it. Anakin and Obi-Wan were both trained by Grand Master Yoda as a pair, something the Jedi have not done in a millennia. The two grew up like brothers. Their last names were given to them after they were inducted into the Order based on the planets they were taken from. They were both young, but Obi-Wan was training his first pupil, named Indu Vinjun. Obi-Wan was told by the Jedi Council to have his student remain on Coruscant at the temple while they went off to their mission. He is a bit upset not to follow his master. After the meeting with the Duchess, the Jedi follow her into the negotiations. The air in the room is tense, and neither side wants to budge or play nice. Suddenly, the planet communications and power are shut off. Before the delegations from either side could know what happened, blaster fire broke out, and the city was driven into chaos. Anakin and Obi-Wan tried to get all of the delegates and the Duchess out to a safe location. While they were doing so, they were met by a dark Jedi wielding a pair of red lightsabers. The Jedi Knights managed to get Satine and some of her entourage into the hangar bay and scare off the Dark Jedi back into the night. They were able to get one of the ships up and running and managed to get off-world. As they did, they had to fly through the different cruisers from the Republic and the Clone Confederacy. Because of the fight that had broken out, these ships, not understanding what was happening on the ground, began to panic. The ship that the Jedi Knights were on made a jump to light speed, only to be able to get out of the fight, but they managed to only get to the backwater planet of Tatooine. Tatooine was an Outer Rim planet in clone space. It had grown in recent years, but was still nothing more than a few cities and an endless sea of sand. The group worked to get repairs and parts for their ship with what credits they had. They knew they needed to get back to Coruscant and alert the Senate and the Jedi Council about the events on Naboo. Obi-Wan and Anakin helped the best they could and finally got to know the people they were serving, including Duchess Satine. Anakin became enamored with her, and soon Obi-Wan followed suit. After they fixed the ship, but before they left the planet, they were attacked by another Dark Jedi with a double-bladed red lightsaber. The Jedi fought him off long enough for the ship to lift off and take off. This discovery made by Anakin and Obi-Wan unsettled them even more than the idea of war breaking out. They had heard the stories of the ancient Sith, their power in the dark side of the Force, and their red lightsabers and the havoc they unleashed upon the galaxy. Neither of them believed the Sith could return, and neither of them wanted it to be true. When they made it to Coruscant, the Jedi reported back to the Jedi Council of the events and their findings. Satine went to the Senate and talked with Senator Sheev Palpatine from Naboo about the chaos and confusion their planet had been thrown into. Senator Palpatine was concerned for his people and pointed out the inability of the sitting Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, and how he had done nothing to stop this mounting war or the deaths of the Naboo people. Together, Satine and Sheev went to the Senate and called for a vote of no confidence in the sitting Chancellor. The vote prompted the Senate to want to elect someone who could handle this situation better. Obi-Wan, and later Anakin, visited Satine and checked on her. She explained she wanted to return to Naboo and fight for her people. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and his apprentice, Endu, offered to come with her and help her protect her, free her people, and hopefully stop the war before it began. Together, Satine, her guards, and the Jedi left the politics to the politicians and returned to Naboo. They snuck into the city, freed some of the guards and other prisoners, and they began liberating the city and taking back the planet. As they did, they were met by the two Dark Jedi from before. The three Jedi squared off against the two Dark Jedi. In the confrontation, Endu lost his arm above the left wrist. The female Dark Jedi, Asajj, was killed, and the male Dark Jedi, Maul, was thought to have died after his legs were cut down and he fell into a pit. Satine took back the city and the planet. However, the Republic and the clones left pointing fingers at the other side for the deaths of their people, both sides plotting revenge, and the Clone Wars officially began. Palpatine was elected to be the new Chancellor, and he sent out a conscription request for the people of the galaxy to join the Republic Army and defend the Republic and all its people. The Clone Society Initiative ramped up production for soldiers and began negotiating with other systems to leave the Republic. Satine began a secret relationship with both Anakin and Obi-Wan, with neither knowing about the other.